A few days ago, I went to a remote Appalachian town to write about local folklore. I'm a freelance journalist, and this was my chance to explore some urban legends. I rented a small cabin just outside town. It was surrounded by thick woods that felt like they held secrets. I was excited but also nervous. I had never dealt with anything like this before. That first night, I sat down to relax. The cabin was too quiet. I felt like someone was watching me. Then I heard a tapping on the window. At first, I thought it was tree branches. But when a cold wind blew through, I felt uneasy. Just your imagination, I told myself. I tried to sleep. The next day, I talked to some locals. They told me about a woman in the woods. Their eyes told me they were scared. I asked them more, but they clammed up. It felt like they were hiding something. I was uncomfortable, but my curiosity kept me pushing for more. That night, I went outside. The moon was bright, and it felt still. But then I saw her. A woman stood at the edge of the trees, wrapped in a tattered shawl. She stared right at me. I blinked, and she vanished. I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. I wanted to call out, but fear held me back. Days passed, and strange things continued. I spoke to an elderly man. He started telling me about a creature in the woods. Just as he got to the scary part, he stopped. His face turned white, and he looked over my shoulder. I turned to see nothing. "You shouldn't be out there after dark," he said, shaking. The sunsets turned eerie. Children's laughter echoed from the trees. It was beautiful, yet chilling. I felt both fear and wonder. Was it just the wind, or was something lurking out there? Doubts crept into my mind. Maybe the legends were real. I was losing grip on what was true. On my final night, the tapping returned. This time it was louder, almost desperate. My heart pounded as I stood frozen. Then I heard the laughter again, children's voices, close yet far away. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, but the beam didn't help. Darkness hung around my cabin like a thick blanket. I saw her again. The woman in the shawl stood right outside my window, her eyes locked onto mine. I wanted to run but couldn't move. She whispered something, but I couldn't make it out. My breath quickened. I felt very far from alone. What happened next left me with more questions than answers. I didn't sleep much that night. My mind swirled with thoughts about the woman. Who was she? What did she want? The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't stay in this cabin any longer. As dawn broke, I packed up my things. I needed to leave before I lost my mind. Just as I was about to drive back to town, I noticed a small stone path leading deeper into the woods. My curiosity tugged at me again. Despite my better judgment, I followed it, thinking maybe I'd find a clue to all the strange happenings. I tried to convince myself that I was just a journalist, chasing stories, but I felt the pull of fear mixed with fascination. The path twisted and turned, shaded by the thick canopy above. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground itself was trying to pull me back. Eventually, I found a clearing. It was breathtaking. Wildflowers bloomed everywhere, but the air felt different, thick and charged, as if something was watching me again. I glanced around, half expecting to see the woman in the shawl. That's when I noticed something strange. In the center of the clearing was an old wooden chair, the kind you'd expect on a porch. It stood alone, surrounded by those flowers. My heart raced as I approached. Whispers floated on the breeze, indistinct but haunting. I felt a tugging sensation at the back of my mind, urging me to sit down. Instead, I pulled out my phone to take a picture. As I did, the laughter returned, louder this time, echoing from all around, but when I turned to look, nothing was there. My pulse quickened. I didn't belong here. I was intruding. I headed back to the cabin, my heart racing with every step. The car felt like a safe haven, but I knew I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I drove a few miles, but then I realized I had left my notebook behind, the one where I had written all my notes about the town and the legends. It was too important to leave. With a sigh, I turned around. When I got back to the cabin, an uneasy energy filled the air. The tapping had stopped, but it felt like the woods were holding their breath. I stepped inside, looking for my notebook, but it was nowhere to be found. My stomach dropped. I searched the cabin frantically, but it felt like the walls were closing in around me. Then I remembered the chair in the clearing. I felt an urge to go back and see if it was there again. I almost turned to go, but just as I did, I caught a glimpse of movement outside. Someone or something was standing at the edge of the trees, watching me. My breath caught in my throat. The air felt electric. In that moment, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Whatever lay in those woods was calling me, and I had to find out why. But as I stepped toward the door, the lights flickered and went out. I was left in darkness, not knowing what would come next. I stood in the dark, the only sound was the thump of my heart racing. Panic bubbled inside me. I fumbled for my phone, praying the battery still had some charge left. Finally, its screen illuminated the small space, casting eerie shadows against the walls. The darkness felt alive, pressing in on me. I remembered the figure I'd seen outside. What if it came in? I crept towards the front door, my feet silent against the cold floorboards. I needed to look outside. Maybe the flickering lights had just been a power surge. Maybe the woman wasn't real. I took a deep breath, steadying myself as I flicked the door open. Moonlight spilled into the night, illuminating the path to the woods. Everything looked still, but I felt the air quivering with unseen movement. I stepped out, the chill biting at my skin. Glancing around, I saw nothing but trees swaying gently. Had I imagined it? Then, in the distance, I heard it again. A sound, like soft laughter, echoing through the night. My stomach churned. Whoever or whatever had been watching me was close. I rushed to the side of the cabin, feeling the wood cool against my back. I peered around the corner, trying to catch a glimpse. The trees felt like they had secrets hidden among them, and I was both terrified and compelled to uncover them. I had to go back to the clearing. I needed to understand what was happening. It felt like the chair was calling me, its whispers weaving through the air. But with the laughter ringing in my ears, fear twisted my gut. This was not a mere journalistic curiosity anymore, it was dangerous. I stepped away from the cabin and made my way to the path. Every snap of a twig underfoot felt deafening in the stillness. I wanted to turn back, but I pushed on, each step echoing with dread and exhilaration. The clearing opened up ahead, the moon glowing brightly, but my heart sank as I reached it. The chair was gone. Instead, I found something else. A trail of crushed flowers led into the woods, a path where vibrant colors once bloomed. My breath caught. I was not the only one who had been drawn here. Someone had been here before me. I followed the trail cautiously, every instinct telling me to turn back. But curiosity kept pulling me deeper. Then, without warning, a figure stepped into view, blocking my path. My eyes widened as I recognized the shape. The woman from my nightmares stood before me, her shawl fluttering in the breeze. This time, her presence felt unmistakable, her features sharp against the darkness. Fear froze me in place. "What do you want?" I managed to whisper. She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a jolt of energy. A rush of thoughts flooded my mind, conversations that weren't mine, glimpses of another time. Each one left an imprint, as if I was absorbing her memories. But just as quickly as it began, the connection snapped. She stepped back, the shadows closing in around her. I barely had time to react before she vanished into the trees, leaving behind only a whisper, "Find me." I stood frozen in the clearing, trembling. I had to find out what that meant, but I also knew that the nights were becoming darker and the woods less welcoming. As I turned to leave, the laughter returned, ringing louder now, swirling around me. I had to get out. But who or what awaited me on my way back? I turned on my heel, heart racing, desperate to escape whatever danger lurked in the shadows. Each step felt weighted with dread as I hurried back along the trail. My mind raced with questions. What did she mean by, "find me"? Who was she? And why did she leave those flowers? The laughter echoed again, bouncing off the trees, making my skin crawl. It was close, too close. I glanced back but saw nothing in the moonlight. The woods had come alive, branches rustling as if conspiring against me. I quickened my pace, pushing past the crushing fear. As I reached the edge of the clearing, something stopped me cold. A flash of white caught my eye. I squinted into the darkness, searching for the source. The trail of crushed flowers was lighting up, glowing softly as if revealing a secret path. My throat tightened. This wasn't just flowers, there was an unmistakable trail leading deeper into the woods. Should I follow it? I hesitated, my instinct screaming at me to run. Yet, a part of me felt that the chair and the woman were connected to this, a story waiting to unfold. Gritting my teeth, I decided to stay on the path. If there was a chance to understand what was going on, I had to be brave. I moved cautiously, the glow of the flowers guiding me forward. I tried to focus on my breath, but anxiety clung to me like a second skin. Then came the laughter again, higher and more frantic. It felt like it was swirling around me, in my ears, pulling me into its grasp. It was almost melodic, teasing me as I stepped farther away from the cabin. Just as I neared a cluster of trees, my foot caught on something, a root or maybe a stone. I stumbled but caught myself before I fell. Taking a moment, I scanned my surroundings and noticed a small light flickering in the distance, not the moon, not the flowers. It was different, more erratic, pulsing like a heartbeat. Drawn to it, I crept forward. The laughter dimmed slightly, replaced by whispers. I strained to catch the words but couldn't make them out. They wrapped around me, inviting yet unsettling. I pushed aside my rising fear, focusing on the light. As I got closer, I realized it was an old lantern hanging from a gnarled branch, its flame barely flickering. That's when I saw it. Beneath the lantern, something lay half buried in leaves. I crouched down, heart pounding, and brushed away the foliage. My breath hitched in my throat. It was a small, delicate box, intricately carved and shimmering softly in the light. I had found it a piece of a puzzle I never knew existed. But as I lifted the box, the laughter surged again, ringing in my ears like a warning. I couldn't shake the feeling that by taking this box, I had crossed an unseen line. Then everything went dark. The lantern's flame snuffed out, plunging me into chaos. I could hear distant voices blending into the laughter, my heart racing in the silence that followed. I remained crouched, the box clutched in my hands, unsure of what would come next. I needed to escape, but now the woods were alive with shadows, and the faces hidden in the dark were watching me. Who were they? And what did they want? I took a deep breath, preparing myself for whatever I would face next. The darkness was absolute, swallowing the faintest glints of moonlight as I sat there, trembling. I could still hear the laughter echoing in my mind, but now it felt distant, like it belonged to a different world. My fingers tightened around the box, its surface cool and strangely comforting against the mounting fear. Suddenly, a rustle broke the silence, and my heart leaped into my throat. Someone or something was out there. I squinted into the shadows, straining to see through the thick veil of night. Was it a trick of my imagination, or was there movement among the trees? Just out of sight, something shifted, and I felt a rush of breath, hot and quick against my neck. I froze, too frightened to turn around. But then I remembered the box. Whatever this was, it could be the key to understanding everything. I had to know what was inside. Carefully, I pulled the box closer, trying to find a way to open it. There was no latch, just engravings that seemed to twist and turn as if alive. The laughter returned, piercing the gloom again. I felt lightheaded, ready to bolt. But just then, a whisper floated through the air. It was soft, almost melodic, but definitely urgent. "Help us." I blinked, leaning closer to the box. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaky. The laughter quieted for a moment, replaced by a soft rustling as if the wind was responding to me. "Find us," it echoed again, and the urgency returned. With every breath I took, I felt the heaviness of the air grow thicker, pressing against my chest. I felt the need to escape, but I was somehow trapped in this moment, this choice. Summoning my courage, I pressed my fingers into the design of the box, tracing the intricate carvings. They felt warm, pulsing under my touch. I heard the whispers again, louder now, swirling around me, each word a plea tinged with desperation. "It's time." I couldn't resist the pull any longer. The box responded, shifting slightly as if unlocking. With a soft creak, it opened, revealing a collection of delicate objects nestled inside tiny charms and worn-out trinkets, each one shimmered softly in the dark. A feeling of warmth spread through me, mingling with the icy fear still gripping my stomach. Just then, a flash of movement caught my eye. From the depths of the trees, a figure emerged, cloaked in shadows. My breath caught. It was tall and thin, with a face hidden beneath a dark hood. My instincts screamed to run, but I was rooted to the spot, transfixed by the figure's presence. "Release them," it croaked, voice low and gravelly. "You cannot hold on to what you don't understand." Panic surged through me. I could feel the weight of the past pressing down, the secrets wrapped around the box and the laughter that still echoed in my ears. If I didn't act fast, I would become part of this mystery, a casualty of the woods and the whispering shadows. As the figure stepped closer, the darkness seemed to sway with it. I looked down at the box, at the charms inside. What did they mean? What had I awakened? I had to make a choice. Would I release the box and whatever secrets it held, or would I fight to hold on to something that might destroy me? In that moment, the choice was taken from me. Something lunged from the shadows, and I screamed. I didn't see what lunged at me. It was swift and dark, a flash of movement that sent terror racing through my veins. I stumbled back, my heart pounding against my chest. The box toppled over, scattering the trinkets across the ground. I barely registered their landing, as the figure loomed closer, a silhouette against the swathes of trees. "Stop!" I shouted, trying to sound commanding, but my voice wavered. My legs wanted to flee, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The figure hesitated, and I took that moment to dart past it, running in the opposite direction of the shadows. The forest was a configuration of darkness, trees blurring together as I skirted a patch of underbrush. Adrenaline propelled me forward, branches clawing at my arms and face. I could still hear the laughter, now mingled with panicked whispers, urging me to return. I didn't stop until I stumbled into a clearing, gasping for breath. My heart hammered loudly in my ears. I glanced back, but the figure was gone. I looked down at the scattered charms, each one glinting under what little light managed to seep through the leaves above. Without thinking, I dropped to my knees, scrambling to collect them. One charm caught my eye, a small silver key, intricately designed. It felt oddly warm to the touch. As I held it in my palm, the whispers intensified. "Find us," they insisted, each plea wrapping tighter around my thoughts. "What do you mean?" I shouted into the void of the woods. My voice bounced back to me, almost mocking. The key slid through my fingers as I fell back onto my heels, the fear settling in my chest like lead. I remembered what the cloaked figure had said, you cannot hold on to what you don't understand. Was I truly holding on to something? Or was I bound to something greater, something darker? The laughter echoed again, but now it felt more like a call than a taunt. I could sense that it wasn't just about the box or the charms, it was about whatever the box had awakened. I stood up, brushing the dirt off my clothes. Moments later, the shadows greedily closed in around the clearing. "No," I whispered, trying to maintain my resolve. But a knot of dread curled in my stomach as I realized I had no idea how deep this went. What if it wasn't just my life at stake? The wind picked up, swirling the leaves around me like a cyclone. There was something out there with intent. I could feel it, hovering just beyond my sight. And then I remembered the key. The laughter transformed into a chorus of whispers, urging me to listen closely. I needed to know what the key unlocked. But as I turned back to the shadows of the trees, a feeling of dread washed over me. There was an answer out there, but it might lead to something worse than darkness. Then everything went dark again. A shadow entered the clearing, an outline of the cloaked figure, but this time it wasn't he alone. Something else was with it, and it filled me with an insurmountable dread. My heart stopped. The cloaked figure was joined by a second shadow, its shape more twisted and bulbous. Something flickered at its edges. Was it smoke or something else? My instincts screamed at me to run, but my legs felt like lead, heavy with fear. The first figure took a step forward, the moonlight glinting off its hood. I could feel its gaze on me, a weight that pressed against my chest. "You shouldn't have come here," it said in a voice that felt like ice. Before I could think, I clutched the silver key tightly. "What do you want?" My voice was shaky, yet I forced the words out. I had to know. The second shadow shifted, letting out a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the clearing. It sounded like laughter, but it was so distorted that it felt like a warning. The key radiated warmth in my palm, and I wondered if it was my last tie to a normal life. "Find us," the cloaked figure echoed, almost in unison with the second shadow. Frantic whispers swirled around me, mixing with the wind. "Unlock our path." I shook my head. What path? My voice wavered, doubt creeping in. It felt like they were reaching into the depths of my mind, looking for something. But what? What was I supposed to find? The shadows darted closer, edging on the outskirts of the clearing. I could see the outline of the second figure more clearly now. It had elongated limbs and a hunched posture that reminded me of tales my grandmother used to tell. I wished I had listened more carefully. Then, with a sudden movement, the cloaked figure extended its hand. In an instant, the air crackled with energy. "To enter our realm, you must act." Act? Panic surged through me as I sensed urgency in their voices. Did they mean I had to use the key? But to what end? Before I could decide, a flash of light broke through the trees. It illuminated the clearing around me, revealing the twisted roots and litter of leaves. I could see the faces hidden in the darkness, their hollow eyes locked onto me. Each pair seemed to whisper my name, pulling me toward them. I stumbled back, the key slipping from my fingers. It clattered to the ground, sliding toward the cloaked figure. "No!" I gasped, reaching for it, but the shadows converged like a living wave. The laughter grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. They weren't just shadows, they were memories, echoes of lost souls entwined with this forest. I felt something cold creeping into my mind, something ancient and terrible. The key had connected me to them, awakening answers I wasn't ready for. Then everything went silent. "Make your choice," the cloaked figure whispered, now closer. I could feel its breath, cold and sharp. I looked around, disoriented. The trees loomed overhead like giants, watching my every move. I could sense the truth lurking just beyond my reach. I needed to know, but at what cost? And then, out of the silence, I heard a guttural growl from behind me. Instinctively, I turned, heart racing. That's when I saw it, an enormous creature emerging from the shadows, its eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Fear froze me in place, and I realized I might have just awakened something far worse than I imagined. The creature stepped into the clearing, towering over me. Its fur seemed matted and dark, absorbing the moonlight as if it thrived in the shadows. I could see jagged teeth glistening in the dim light, and the growl rumbled from deep within its chest. Every instinct told me to flee, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. The cloaked figures had taken a step back, their presence fading as the beast filled the clearing. I felt the cold grip of fear tighten around my throat. I could barely breathe. Was this the creature from my grandmother's tales? The one that lured unsuspecting souls into the forest? Run! My mind screamed. But I didn't move. I was paralyzed by the sight of those glowing eyes, watching me intently, almost as if it could read my thoughts. Then I remembered the silver key I had dropped. It lay just outside the creature's reach, glimmering with a strange light. Suddenly, the cloaked figure with the sharp breath stepped forward again, a single finger raised as if to silence me. "You're meant to face it," it said. "The key is your only weapon." My heart thundered in my chest. Weapon? I didn't know how to fight a beast like this. But I also felt the pull of the key. What if it was the only way to control what I had unleashed? The creature lunged, a blur of motion. I barely managed to roll out of the way as it struck the ground, sending up a cloud of dirt and leaves. It turned on me, teeth bared, and I reached instinctively for the key. As my fingers wrapped around the cool metal, I felt a surge of energy. The shadows around me whispered in unison, a cacophony of voices. "Unlock the truth. Show it your heart." What? I didn't understand. I needed to escape, yet the key pulsed in my hand, urging me to act. I took a breath, steadying myself. Maybe the shadows were right. Perhaps I had to confront the source of my fear. The creature circled back, its growl echoing in the silence. I raised the key, holding it out. "I won fight you," I shouted, my voice breaking. "But I will find out what you want." The words barely left my lips before the creature paused, its glowing eyes narrowing. It tilted its head, as if considering my challenge. The tension built, thick and suffocating. Could this work? Slowly, I stepped forward, the key trembling in my outstretched hand. And then everything went dark. The shadows consumed me, wrapping around like a heavy cloak. I could feel the ground shift beneath my feet. One moment I was in the clearing, and then I was somewhere else entirely. When the darkness lifted, I found myself in a different realm. The trees were taller, the air electrified with energy. Strange, glowing orbs floated around me, illuminating the twisted landscape. The creature was gone, but I wasn't alone. Figures flickered in and out of view, those hollow-eyed souls from before. They were closer now, their whispers woven into the very fabric of this place. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. A chill ran through the air. The cloaked figure reappeared before me, its voice echoing without sound. "You have unlocked the pathway. Now, you must choose." Choose? Why did every encounter lead back to a choice? My mind raced. What was at stake this time? I felt an urgency to understand, but the weight of my decision pressed heavily on me. And then I noticed a glimmer in the distance, another key. It pulsed with the same silver light, but something in my gut warned me that obtaining it might change everything. I took a hesitant step toward the shimmering key, drawn by its light. My heart raced with every inch I approached. The glowing orbs danced in the air, casting odd shadows around me. Each figure seemed to watch me with intent, their whispers intertwining with the rustling leaves and soft winds. "Stay away from it," one of the souls warned, its voice like a gust of wind. "You don't know what it holds." Yet, curiosity gnawed at me. How could I resist? I could barely remember the last time I felt in control of anything. How could I turn back when the answer was right there, shimmering and tempting? Please! I shouted at the figures. What do you know? What does it mean? Their faces were a blur, but I could feel their collective hesitation. The cloaked figure interjected, its form barely steady in this realm. You must understand. Every key unlocks a different truth or a different trap. It's not just about what you want. It's about what you're willing to uncover. How could I uncover anything without knowing what it was? The weight of the choice pressed on me like a stone, the shadows seemed to sway, eager for my decision. I took a deep breath, the cool air filling my lungs. I could stay safe here with unanswered questions, or I could reach for the key and confront whatever lay behind it. What if it led me back to the creature? Could I handle that? At that moment, a rush of movement caught my eye. Behind the glimmering key, a dark figure flitted through the branches, its form a blur. Instinct kicked in. My fight-or-flight response surged. I turned back to the cloaked figure. What was that? That, it answered, voice heavy, is the shadow of your fears. You cannot run from it. My stomach twisted. I was facing the creature's essence in this realm. I could see it taking shape, lurking just beyond my perception. The air crackled with tension as the figure moved closer. What do I do? I pleaded, panic creeping into my voice. Choose, was all it said. Then I remembered the first key, the one that had almost slipped through my fingers back in the clearing. What if these keys were not just separate entities? What if they were connected? The new key before me shimmered with potential, but I could feel the creature's shadow drawing near. I could wait and try to figure it out, or I could seize the moment. I took another step forward, my hand reaching out towards the key. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, becoming a shrill chorus that sent shivers down my spine. It will not care for your heart, they cried. It is the fear that will consume you. And then everything intensified. The glowing orbs exploded in brightness, the world swirling around me. The dark figure lunged, and I felt the surge of energy from the key as I grasped it tightly. In that instant, I understood, facing my fear wasn't just about battling the creature. It was about confronting everything that lurked within me. The looming darkness threatened to engulf me, but I stood firm, ready to unlock whatever lay ahead. But when the light faded, I realized I had made my choice. Yet all that met my eyes was the vast, empty void, and a haunting question rang in my ears: had I just unleashed a nightmare? I blinked, disoriented in the abrupt darkness that engulfed me. The shadows closed in, silent and watchful, as if waiting for my next move. My heart hammered in my chest, each thud resonating with the unsolved mystery that surrounded me. Had I truly escaped, or had I invited something far worse into my life? I felt the key pulsing in my hand, its smooth surface comforting yet filled with weighty implications. As I gripped it tighter, the air began to shift, thickening with a familiar energy, electrifying and oppressive just like before. A soft light flickered around me, illuminating the outlines of trees that spiraled up towards the sky. The forest was alive with whispers again, the pleas of those souls trapped within. Choose wisely, they echoed, their disembodied voices mingling with the rustling leaves, creating an unsettling symphony of despair and longing. Is this truly the path? I shouted into the dark void, insecurity shaking my voice. What lies ahead? Will I face the creature again? No answer came, just the suffocating silence of the forest, wrapping around me like an unwanted cloak. I took a deep breath, weighing my options, thoughts spiraling. I could run back to my life, forget all about this nightmare. But the call was still there, an undeniable pull to understand what I had unleashed, and what the key could truly unlock. Visions of the glowing trinket spread throughout the clearing, flooded my mind. Unlock our path, the cloaked figure had said. A rush of determination surged through me. Perhaps this was the moment, if only I had the courage to use the key, to unlock whatever truth awaited me on the other side. Holding my breath, I took a step forward, the key trembling in my grasp. "I release your truth," I said, my voice steadying with resolve. "Show me what you hold." As I spoke, the key began to glow, illuminating a circle around me and bathing the trees in a warm, ethereal light. The whispers rose to a fever pitch, swirling around as figures began to materialize in the luminescence, the faces once hidden now exposed, worn and sorrowful, yet strangely familiar. Then I saw her, the woman in the shawl. Her expression was softer now, a mingling of gratitude and sorrow in her eyes. "You found the path," she whispered, and I felt a jolt of recognition. Her pain echoed within me as if her story entwined with my own. But before I could speak, the laughter pierced through the warmth, as chaotic as ever, igniting a fear deep within me. "No!" I shouted, the sound erupting from my throat. "What do you want?" In response, the shadows that clung to the trees seemed to grow fangs, morphing into the shape of the creature I had glimpsed before. It loomed large and ominous, the air around it thickening. My pulse quickened, terror fighting against my determination. "Face it," the voices demanded, almost pleading. "Only then will you find the truth." I stood my ground, raising the glowing key higher. "You don't scare me," I shouted, though part of me quaked with uncertainty. I took a step closer to the beast, heart racing as I felt its predatory gaze piercing through me. "What do you want?" And for a moment, time seemed to hang, suspended between fear and understanding. I could see into the depths of that creature. It wasn't just a monster but a shadow of fear and lost dreams, my own as well. The souls had granted me insight, unraveling the ties between desire and dread. "Face your fear," I echoed once more, urging myself to stand firm. "I won't let you consume me." Then, just like that, the creature lunged forward. In a flash of instinct, I thrust the key outwards, an involuntary response to protect myself. Light erupted from the key, tearing through the darkness and illuminating everything in its wake. The beast paused, faltering as the glow enveloped it. The shadows hissed, recoiling as if they too were afraid of the light. In that blinding moment, the whispers surged back, this time not in panic, but a cacophony of relief and triumph. The light expanded, pushing back the shadows that clung to the trees, revealing a vibrant forest teeming with life. And then, all at once, silence reclaimed the clearing. The glow dimmed, revealing an empty space where the creature had stood moments before. The warmth of the key faded too, becoming an ordinary object in my hand as the weight of the moment sunk deep. I felt the coldness of fear evaporating away, but I was left with lingering questions. Had I defeated the creature, or merely trapped it away? What had I unlocked within myself? Everything felt unresolved, yet for the first time, the air felt lighter. Looking around at the empty space where shadows had danced, I knew I wouldn't find answers easily. The laughter had vanished, returning to the stillness of the woods, but didn't truly fade. It lingered like an echo, a reminder of all I had seen and faced. "Find us," the souls whispered, but I didn't know if I wanted to. As I turned to leave, I felt the weight of the unknown resting on my shoulders, a reminder that while I'd escaped tonight, the forest and its shadows would always remain tied to my journey. The questions lingered just as haunting, just as curious. I stepped onto the path leading back, half wishing to never return, yet part of me understood. The story wasn't over. I moved away from the clearing, leaving behind pieces of fear and whispers unanswered, but carrying a key, literal and metaphorical, that would forever remind me of the night I faced my dark reflection.